Hey everyone, I'm Christina from Pip Supply, and today we're going to talk about sublimation transfers and DTF transfers. I'm going to explain the differences, how to apply them, and everything else you need to know. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're going to first start off by talking about sublimation transfers. A sublimation transfer comes just like this. It's on a piece of paper. The ink actually looks a little more faded out until you go to transfer it to your fabric. The coloring is going to highly depend on the type of fabric that you're transferring it to. With sublimation, it has to be a high count of polyester, so keep that in mind. If you're going to use any type of shirt, you want it to have at least a 60% polyester count, and even with 60%, it's going to come out a little bit more vintagey looking. It's not going to have a high saturation in its coloring. And you guys can see that right here. This shirt is, let me see. This shirt is 60% polyester, 35% rayon, and 5% spandex. So it just doesn't take to it as well. But this shirt, same exact transfer, is 100% polyester, and you can see the difference in the coloring. So that's going to determine how your transfer ends up looking based on whatever type of polyester count you have on your t-shirt, okay? So that kind of gives you an idea. This still looks great, it's just a different style and more vintagey looking, I guess we can call it. With polyester, your words are going to be reversed. You always want to make sure that whoever you purchase from, or if you're doing them at home, you want to make sure that you reverse your image. So that way when you apply it onto your shirt, it will be applied and be facing the right way. Okay, so to apply our sublimation transfers, we're going to want to lay down our shirt. We do highly recommend you use a heat press if you tried it with an iron or anything else, it just would not apply evenly, especially when you're working with sublimation. You can get something called ghosting, where if your paper moves slightly, you're going to have a blurred image, and you don't want that. You want it to be nice and clear and vibrant and everything else. So you need to use a heat press with sublimation. Before you get started, you lay out your t-shirt. You just want to make sure that there's no lints or anything on your fabric, okay? It's nice. Do like maybe a 10-second press just to get any moisture out and kind of just smooth out your fabric so it's nice and ready to go. And I had already done that right before we started. Then you're going to take your paper, you're going to flip it and lay it upside down. So your white side is going to be facing you, and you want to make sure that it is even on all sides. And there's all kinds of different like ruler type things you can get on Etsy or Amazon or different places like that, just to help you align your transfers evenly, okay? With sublimation transfers, we do recommend that you tape the sides. You don't want to just lay it there. You can, especially if you don't have heat transfer tape. This is a heat transfer tape we got off of Amazon. Not all heat transfer tapes are good. Some of them will leave yellow marks. You want to make sure that you get one. Just read reviews. They'll call themselves heat transfer tapes, but they may not work as well, okay? I'll go ahead and do this one without the tape, just so you guys can see. We do the sublimation transfers that we sell on the website, we send them on a sticky paper. So even though it's not sticky right now, when you get your paper and you apply it to your shirt, once the heat hits it with the heat press, it's gonna stick. So just keep that in mind. So I'm gonna do this one without my tape right now, just so you can see. So I'm even on all sides, and I'm gonna go ahead and put it in. It needs to be at 400 degrees for 40 seconds, okay? So let's go ahead and get this one started. Okay, so it was under the heat for 40 seconds. And like I mentioned, our sublimation paper is a sticky paper. So it sticks to your shirt slightly, and you just peel it off once it's ready to go. And look at how nice that came out. That was without me taping it, but we do, especially if you've never done this before, we do highly recommend that you use your tape, and you would just put your tape on all sides. Just like a little piece here, a little piece here, a little piece here. But look at how nice and vibrant that came out. Nice and clear. This shirt is 100% polyester. So remember, that's key thing anytime you're working with sublimation. The higher the count of polyester, the better quality of like coloring and everything you're gonna have. So to compare one more time, this one is 60%. Okay, and you can see the difference. It's also not a pure white, it's like an off-white. but it has a cool vintage feel and it still looks clear. It's just more like a faded look, but it still looks really great. So depending on what type of look you're going for and the type of shirt that you're using is going to vary on how it turns out. But hopefully that explains it. But you definitely want to do it at 400 degrees for 40 seconds, okay? Every heat press may not like be the same, so just kind of keep that in mind. You may want to do a test run on like a piece of fabric or something with just a little piece to see how it goes before you do your full shirt. What else? And then I have this at medium pressure, so that's also important, your pressure when you're pressing down these different transfers. All right, next up we're going to talk about the DTF transfers. Okay, next up we're going to talk about DTF transfers. These are so great because they can be applied to anything. So unlike our sublimation transfers that we just talked about where they have to be applied to something with a high polyester count, these can be applied to cotton, these can be applied to polyester, pretty much any type of blend for your shirts or sweatshirts or whatever, and they'll apply super easy. They have a nice soft feel to them. They're not like crunchy or anything like that. They're very similar to like screen printing. But it does just lay on top of your fabric, but it has a nice stretch, so when you pull on it, it doesn't crack. What else? Lots of great things about these, and then the color is super saturated. So anyways, I'm going to show you guys how to apply these next, and then I'll give you any other details. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments below. All right, for DTF transfers, I'm going to go ahead and use a sweatshirt this time. This one is a 60% polyester. Let me see what it said. 35% cotton and 5% spandex. And like I said, it could be 100% cotton and it'll still work with the DTF transfers, okay? For DTF, before, just like we did it with our sublimations, you just want to make sure that there is nothing on your shirt, and you can do this before you lay it in your heat press. That way you don't burn yourself. But I already have it in here, and then you're just going to press it for a few seconds just to get the wrinkles out and any moisture that there may be. And now you have a nice flat surface to work with. So with our DTF, you're gonna lay it flat. So you're gonna need some parchment paper. So I have this that we use for sublimation. I'm just gonna lay it over. And you wanna make sure, like I said, it's centered wherever you're gonna want it. Let me see. And then you lay your paper over. With DTF, you need to have even pressure all around. So a lot of people have asked, can you use an iron for these? Can you use a Cricut heat press, like a handheld one? You can, but we do not recommend it. So we definitely recommend always using heat presses for any of these type of transfers because they're gonna apply your heat evenly across your shirt, okay? So you wanna make sure you get a nice even heat and that nothing's pilling after you take it off. Because when you use an iron, it tends to not apply the heat evenly. You also don't have the same amount of pressure all over it. With a Cricut, you might be able to, I don't have one to test, but with a Cricut, you might be able to like apply the same amount of pressure evenly just because it's a little bit bigger. It will work, I'll say this, okay? Even though we don't recommend using a Cricut, or not a Cricut, but an iron, it does work. So this is one that I made using an iron. You have to put more pressure, you have to put more, like the transferring time is longer because you're moving your iron across the board. So it's not like you can just leave it there and you get your whole thing. You kind of gotta hold it for a few seconds, apply it, then hold it again for a few seconds, let it apply. So it's a little more tricky, and you can also burn the film part, this part with it. So it can be done, but it is tricky. We recommend that you like try it on something else before you go to put it on your shirt. So kind of practice, because you could have issues and it's not recommended to use an iron. So just wanted to cover that. Okay, the settings for DTF heat transfer is 325, and you want to leave it in there for at least 15 seconds, okay? If you do any longer or have higher heat, it may cause this to burn. So you want to you don't want it to start to melt. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Okay, so I applied my transfer. You want to wait to peel this off until it is cool. So it's still warm, so we're gonna go ahead and let it cool, and then we'll come back and we'll show you as we peel it off, and we'll go from there. All right, so these transfers are cold pills. So like I said, you want to wait until it cools down, and then you just peel it right off, and it's nice and soft. It like kind of just blends with the shirt, which is really nice, or your sweater. So next, you're just gonna wanna throw it back under the heat press just to make sure it's on there. You put your parchment paper back on and you just do it for like 10 seconds. So it's really quick, just to make sure you have a good hold on the fabric and it's not gonna start pilling on you when you wash it. All right, and so we should be good. And look how nice that turned out. Okay, so hopefully that helped to explain a little bit about sublimation transfers and DTF transfers and some of the differences and just how they look in general, like the different types of looks you're gonna get. One thing I did not mention about the sublimation ones is that when you transfer them onto your fabric, it actually becomes a part of the fabric. So it's not something that's laying on top like our DTF transfers. The sublimation is actually like in the fibers now. So it's part of whatever you apply it to. So that's the only like huge difference with that, where the DTF transfers are laying on top, but they still have that nice soft smooth feel. They don't feel like, I don't know, like hard or stiff, which is nice. So if you guys have any questions, like I said, feel free to drop them in the comments. And if you don't already follow us, be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram. We have Facebook. We have a Facebook group called Crafting with Pips, where a lot of our customers post all of their fun creations and different things that they make. But go ahead and check us out at pipsupply.com. Thanks for watching.